he's on the appropriations committee, and he has to work with contractors for highways and roads. And if he's getting contributions from contractors who do, construction, road construction and sewer construction, all that, and that money coming back to the local, well, by definition, we're not supposed to be taking that money because it's being wheeled in. But yet, if we're not giving a job tax specific contract, he's getting a state contract out of it. I mean, I just find it, how do you wrap your hands around it and say, this is, I guess you said up front that, it's not 100%.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
It's definitely not perfect. There are so many ways to get around it.
Yeah, and I guess, looking at that, from our experiences, municipal services, it's a small entity. I mean, we have so many attorneys that handle municipal law. Bergen County. You want to go outside Bergen County, then you get nailed because you went outside the county. You even offer the jobs to the people inside the county. Same thing with civil engineers or project engineers. So it gets kind of mucky, if you will, when you try to separate the threads. I see that no matter how far you try to separate those threads, there are going to be links throughout this. So, and like I said last week, if you're going to have transparency, the transparency should be from $1 in, $1 out, so that everybody is aware of what's going on. Disclosure forms, I think, is a good idea. I think that helps tremendously. But to get it, where we say it's clean, well, it looks clean, but I'm not sure about that.
Because there are still ways, like I said to you, we have this disclosure form, and I don't want to pick on our prosecutor, but he filled out the disclosure form, and he didn't disclose it. It was found on ELAC. I found it on ELAC, that he had given money, to the county organization, and the county organization in turn helped the local candidates. We made it where you can't give money if it's from the county. Now, people will argue, but wait a minute, the county didn't really give us any money, they didn't do anything for us. So does that still count? And that's the decision you have to make. Because the state, unfortunately, set guidelines and says the municipalities can go further what we've done. They haven't given us the guidelines, they haven't given us the limit, and that's why you see the different things in different towns. Now, the reason why I said, zero to me is a perfect thing, but the problem is, how do you track the zero? How do you track the $20 contributions when it's not something that, by law, on the ELEC forms that you have to disclose that money? So, I wanted to be practical, and that's why I said, well, let's, do the money that we can track. Not that I thought it would be okay for people to write checks for $299 5 times, but, you wanted it to be practical so that you can check it.
See, my experience when I was working as a union person, I would always, we would be asked to walk a picket line, and we would be asked to man the phones, or send out flyers. And by this definition, that would be considered wheeling because we would, as a local, we would receive benefits from the local that we help. So I find it hard to put this into the context of this being a bad thing. And I also find it very, very hard to understand, like, if one of my council people were running for re-election, that I wouldn't be allowed to transfer. I would be, but not my account.
Well, it depends on what's in that account.
Well, that's my point. You see, but that's, once it's in my account, that's my money to do as I see fit. But according to the way this thing is set up, that's all in question. And, to me that...
Because that's what happened when all these pay-to-play ordinances came into effect, okay? Let's take, I'll use Republicans because I know I'm a minority here.
It's okay.
The Bergen County Republican Organization, right? All of a sudden, they weren't getting the donations from the attorneys, from this and that, because of all these pay-to-play ordinances. So what happened was they created another account called, Freeholders 09. And then all of a sudden you saw the bulk of the money going into Freeholders 09. And then when you look at Bergen Republicans, all of a sudden, they're getting loans from Freeholders 09, and the money's, coming into there. So it's not that it stopped it completely. They found other ways to do it, and that's the wheeling.
So
and that's what we're trying to stop.
are loans permissible then?
I don't think they are, but I'm in the minority. And when I argued that, I was told,
that's a legitimate
that
question, yeah.
no, I was told that, that it wasn't gonna count, my borough attorney, he ruled me that I was wrong. And, my favorite expression in Fairlawn is, 3 people say that the sky is green, and 2 people say it's blue. Well, guess what? The sky is green today, even though we know it's blue. That's the way it works. So that's why our auditor was allowed to stay. And it's a perfect example of why the 2 accounts and the various accounts within the county organization they're interchangeable. Because what happened was the auditor wrote a check to Victory 09 or whatever number it happened to be, but it was cashed in Bergen County Democratic Organization account. So it came up on the ELEC file of going to Bergen County Democratic Organization. But he says, well, no, I wrote it to Victory. So we got the copy of the check, and sure enough, it went to Victory. And I argued, that's my point. My point is they're interchangeable. The money goes back and forth. You see the loans coming in, the loans going out, because, each freeholder candidate may have their own account, but then there's this one massive account called the Victory accounts. And if you look at them, you'll see a lot of money in there, and the money gets spread around. And I wasn't able to put an end to that in Fairlawn. I argued every chance I could get, but 3 people said the sky was green, so that was the end of that.
How do you call it a loan if you don't pay it back? How do you say
Sometimes it goes back and forth, because then what happens is the next year becomes Victory 010, and new money comes in there, and then it'll go back. It goes back and forth. Have you ever gone on the ELEC site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me about 3 days.
It's horrible, isn't it? Isn't it horrible? It makes it very difficult to navigate, but I've become pretty good at it.
Usually have to wonder calling them because it crashes.
It crashes all the time, yeah.
Another question. In the state statutes, there's no reference to PACs, yet all these ordinances refer to PACs. Explain it to me. I don't get it. I mean, if there is not such a thing that the state recognizes as a PAC at the state level,
We don't
at the
have.
federal level, yes, but at the state level, there's no reference or identifier. I mean, you talk about political party committees, they look at legislative leadership committees, state party committees, state leadership committees, but nothing is defined as a PAC. Yet all these ordinances that come from citizens campaign talk about PACs. I don't get that.
Well, we have PACs in our ordinance, and it would be up to me and my colleagues on the council to say, I received money from this PAC, and then it would go on the list on our disclosure form. Because what we have to do every year, we go to our clerk and we give her a list of all the organizations that we receive money from. And so if we received money from a PAC, then we list it there, and they would be, if any money went to them, would be ineligible.
Okay. The state doesn't identify it.
Well, I think we have, I think in our ordinance, we may have what a PAC is.
Yeah, but there's no reference to it. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how
We have a
you
PAC that is
reconcile it.
organized for the primary purpose of promoting or supporting borough candidates or borough office holders, including any state party or legislative leadership committee, if such contribution or pledge is made within 2 calendar years immediately preceding the date of the municipal decision awarding such contract or agreement on a no-bid basis. So we talk about PACs in here, and I'm not sure if that's in the citizens campaign.
No. As I asked Paul last week, he didn't have an answer either.
Now, it's different with bid contracts. It's completely different. This is just all on no bid.
Right. Anything else, Paul? Right. One thing that, as you think of this, you think of, provisions you want in place, but also playing the devil's advocate, how you can get around them.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm the borough attorney, I can't come to one of your functions. I can't, if you have a, whatever, beefsteak night, I can't come and give you the $35. What's to stop, let's say my wife supports you.
Mhm.
You know, she makes her own money. What's to stop my wife from coming or giving you, you know, giving you a $300, $299 contribution?
We have it in the ordinance that spouses and immediate family members, children cannot give.
Okay. All right, but I guess if I wanted to give it to a friend of mine who's not connected to give to you, that would be fine?
Like I said,
Yeah.
there's loopholes.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you're writing this ordinance, if you don't wanna do it that way, you don't have to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
The state's given you, free rein.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it'd be nice if they just gave us the guidelines.
We've all in agreement of
Yeah.
a uniform.
What about value of services? I mean, this is something that I've thought about also. I'm not gonna give you a direct contribution, but I'm gonna do something that has value to your campaign.
And we have in-kind also.
You do? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And how's that worked out for you?
It's worked out
Yeah.
fine, well, because on, you know, on the forms that you fill out in an election, you've gotta put your in-kind contribution on there too.
Okay.
And hopefully everyone's doing that.
Yeah, actually, that raises a really good point, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman. Let's say you have a, let's go back to, I guess, non-bid contract, either professional services or something that's below the bidding threshold. So let's say you have a printer in town.
Mhm.
And that printer provided an in-kind contribution, to, a campaign.
Right.
Let's say it's $350.
Mhm.
That would disqualify.
Disqualify,
that
yeah.
company. And what if that printer was compensated by the campaign? So reverse it now. So instead of them in-kinding it, well, the campaign paid them to do work. I guess that wouldn't
We don't,
disqualify.
yeah, no, it wouldn't, we
Yeah.
don't have anything
This
like
is
that
something to
there.
think about,
Yeah.
just which way it goes.
Yeah, no, we don't have that in here.
So actually, for you guys, it's a little bit easier because you have 0 as your number.
Yes.
But a $300 number in-kind services, I mean, can get a little tricky because you have to put a dollar value on those services. That's something to think
That
about.
could be subjective also.
Very subjective, yeah, yeah. Well, because if it's printing, that's one thing, it's a little bit more objective, but if it's a different type of service, how do you evaluate?
That's why it took us almost 6 months to do that.
From month one.
Has your ordinance been changed since its original enactment, or?
No, it hasn't. We were going to change it, when the 2 issues of the auditor and the prosecutor came up,
Mhm.
but we didn't change it.
Any wrinkles? I mean, anything you'd like to see changed, or are you happy with the way it is, how it's played out?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I am happy the way it's played out. The only thing, like I said, you have to have somebody who's a watchdog
Right.
on this, because you're going by the honor code. You're hoping that what they put on these forms,
It's
is
complete.
true, and they're being honest with
Yeah,
you. You know,
yeah.
it could be something, what I would have liked, and I don't hate to put more work on the clerk, but, maybe the clerk or someone to be tracking these things.
Right.
Printing out the reports and just, tracking it a little bit. Right now, I do it.
Now, if by some strange miracle that the state actually comes down with a unified code, how would you think this would, the ordinance code comes down?
Well, we would probably have to rescind this, I mean, we've done it before, we had to do it with the, what was it, the pedophile free school zone.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right, yeah.
We had
Yeah.
one of those ordinances,
Yeah.
and we had
Right.
to take that back, so I'm sure it would work the same way.
Okay. No, no.
Just on maybe a little bit off topic, if you don't mind me asking this, when you ran the second time, you had this in place.
Yes.
What did you spend on your campaign?
On this campaign, a lot less than I spent the first time. I spent about $35,000.
The first time?
No, this
This time?
The first time, I think I spent, maybe about 50,000, and my opponent spent 125,000.
This time?
The first time. I was running against Freeholder Jeanne. He was the mayor of Fairlawn at the time, from Freeholder. He spent, $125,000 in that election. That included the primary, he had a primary fight.
That's right, I forgot. It
So-
was 06, right? Was that 06, yeah?
Yes.
Or 05?
05, and,
05,
yeah, because I
right.
was seated in 06.
How much?
Yeah.
I did this. Be back from this.
$125,000.
That one baffled me, that's why I lost where you were on this year's.
How much did you spend on this, yes?
About 35,000.
How'd you raise it? If it's all right there.
No, absolutely, absolutely. With people in the town. People in the town gave me money.
How? Just
How? Fundraisers, cheap fundraisers, house parties, things like that. I did get a little help from the county for the first time, which never happened before. Our Fairlawn Republican Club, gave us some money from, fundraisers that they had. So the local club helped me out. And I had a few large donations. I would say, maybe $1,000 was a large donation from a few people. But most of it was small potatoes. There's a lot of work.
I just want to pick your brain some more since I'm sitting here.
Absolutely.
What kind of fundraisers did you want?
We did beef steaks. We did a Mardi Gras. It was a lot of fun. We did. I have a really nice backyard and nice pool, so we did hot tub nights. Those were fun.
Through the crowd, huh?
I was going to be on the cover of the community news with that one. And people, neighborhood. We have a lot of neighborhood issues in Fairlawn. So different neighborhoods would hold neighborhood type parties for us, for the people. I'm sure you've read in the paper. We've got an issue with the Radford section of Fairlawn, a historical section, and I was on the side of preserving that. So there was a lot of support from those people there. So yeah, it was a lot of door knocking, a lot of and I should say a lot of personal money also that I put into the campaign. I would say maybe I put maybe about $3,000 of my own money. Terwinski is my running mate, and he probably put in a little bit more. He's a lawyer, he can afford it.
Here's a hint.
I'm sorry. Apologies, my attorney.
Anybody else have questions?
No, right now.
Very helpful, thank you very much. Excellent.
Would you like me to leave these with you?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. So if you can maybe make us all copies.
I have the ordinance disclosure form, and two disclosure forms. All right. Very good.
Excellent, thanks
Thank
again.
you for coming.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Good to meet you also, gentlemen.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. And I'll see if I can get back to Fairlawn with all these road closures.
Yeah.
Going on here.
Time of year.
Yeah, how about that?
We're waiting Councilman Pizzuti from Wardell. Does anybody have other business? Thank you, Jeanne, very much.
It's a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Pleasure to meet you. Thanks again. Does anybody have anything to discuss in the meantime, or do you want to take a short recess?
Short recess.
Right. Motion for a short recess? Second, Manna, seconded by Carrick. Okay, why don't we take a few minutes until he gets here?